Alright, 5-9 crew, and we're back with some breaking news. It's just starting to trend on social media, and we thought it'd be good to bring it to you and give our opinion on it and what we think. Basically, it seems that Harry Potter is potentially being rebooted for Warner's HBO Max. If you don't know already, HBO and the movie company Warner are putting all their kind of top properties on there, and the newest one they're looking at doing is Harry Potter. Before I dive in and read a bit about this, I've got a couple of people with me, and first of all, I want to throw it over to Clerk and ask, Clerk, what's your thoughts? Harry Potter, do you like the franchise? Did you like it when you were younger? Are you excited to dive back in there with something new?
Yeah, I loved the franchise when I was a kid. The books, obviously, I think are a good starting point for a lot of kids getting into a more, actual literature. I'm no teacher. I'll let Waffles talk about that. But the movies also were a great part of my childhood too. The movies grew with me as I grew as a child to a teenager, young adult. So I could kind of see some of myself in those characters. So there's some nostalgia, some appreciation for that series growing up, and I'm honestly excited because a lot of people seem to think if you reboot a series, it tarnishes the original. I don't think that. If a sequel or a reboot is bad, just don't watch it. So I'm excited.
That's fair. And Waffles, as he touched on the whole literature side of things, is it something that you would use in your English classes? Would you use like Harry Potter for any sort of educational purposes, or do you just enjoy reading it yourself or watching the shows or movies?
So I will say it can be used for educational purposes. I've recommended it to some students when they're trying to learn more like fantasy types of adjectives, because a lot of times students here don't really get that kind of exposure. So Harry Potter can be a really good starting point for as far as literature wise. So yeah, Click was on point with that. I would say as far as other things, I don't personally use it in my classes just because it's not really related to the type of English I teach, but it's a good supplement for a lot of students in that regard.
That's fair. And Gail, as a fellow Brit, obviously Harry Potter was a big deal in the UK because it came from J.K. Rowling, and we see it as a bit of our own, if you know what I mean. What was your favourite Harry Potter story? What one would you highlight as your favourite?
I think the best one, in my opinion, was probably Goblet of Fire, because some of the decisions made by the writer after books 5, particularly with the characters themselves, kind of confused me. And overall, I wouldn't say deteriorated by any means. The stories were still great, especially when you're a kid, like Claire said. It's amazing for a child growing up with those books, and especially British culture at the end of the day, you could kind of relate much better with, in my case, of course. So I'd say probably Goblet of Fire was my favorite one of the lot, but yeah, like you said, it's something that we all grew up with in the UK, 100%. Like, it's part of our heritage, quote unquote, quite frankly speaking. At this point, let's be honest, if anybody says we're from Britain, the first thing they say, oh, did you go to Hogwarts or something stupid like that, which is I mean, it's kind of become an annoyance, but it is something that's connected to us as British people right now, right? So I'm off the side of, I want to wait and see how the reboot works. Of course, if it is a reboot, of course, they've just said that it's a live action series. We don't know if it's an actual reboot or not, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And if they do recast it, I'm fine with whoever it is, as long as they do a good job. Because, of course, being a TV series, you could arguably put in more than a 1.5 hour to 2 hour movie could. So I want to wait and watch and see what the team over at Warner Brothers do. Well,
I feel that they've got to. I just want to address the elephant in the room here, that I didn't grow up with Harry Potter. I was already grown up when I read Harry Potter. I'm like,
that is true. That is true.
So I had the perspective of an adult enjoying it, which I still did. But I just want to.
Your kids?
My kids weren't born at that point, so no.
So you haven't yet, though?
Not yet, but I've tried to get them to watch some of the movies. What I will say, though, to touch on what Gail said there, I think it's inevitable they have to recast it. If they do a TV show that goes back to do the original, what I would like to see them do, however, is if they obviously do the original story over again, they should do something like bring in Daniel Radcliffe to play James, Harry's dad, in the flashback scenes and stuff like that. I think that would work. Try and use the original cast in roles that would fit, like, for example, Ron's dad could be Rupert Grint. That kind of thing, it would be a way to work them into it.
I mean, even if they don't do that, they can, in the epilogue, at the end, when they show they're all grown up and everything, or whatnot. I'm not going to spoil what happens, but when they're grown up, they could literally bring the original cast back for that particular scene, maybe, instead, because by then, they're like 30 years old or something like that. So something they can do.
What doing it?
Well, I have a question based off that.
On you go, Claire.
Because I'm sure you're all aware of the broadcast, or not the broadcast, the Broadway performance of the
The Cursed
the
Child,
play.
yeah.
Yeah. Where it is their adulthood lives instead. Could
Yeah.
you see this being? Do you expect this to be more of a reboot akin to the first 7 years? Or do you think it'll be more like adulthood for these characters and the world post Voldemort?
Here's my thought on it. I think it'll be a reboot simply because I don't think Fantastic Beasts has done as well as they would have liked it to do. Going into something new, I don't think it had the sort of a reception they wanted it to have. So I don't necessarily think the subsequent stories from the Harry Potter verse have got the same acclaim or sentiment attached to them as the original stories. So if they actually want to go out there and make a lot of money, get people subscribing to the service, I think remaking Harry Potter and going into a lot more detail, because let's be honest, fans of the book always commented that the movies missed a lot. The movies were great, but the movies didn't go into as much detail as the books, because obviously you can't condense a 700-page book into a 2-hour movie. So they could obviously dive into it a lot more, spend a lot more time with the characters, flesh them out, and I think that it would do really well, because people are into that sort of binge watching culture now, where if you get 10 episodes which covers year 1 of Harry Potter, people are going to dive into that, and they know also if they do it right, they've got a multi-series show on their hands, and it's going to make them
for sure
mega bucks. And from what I can see with HBO Max is they seem to be following the Disney Plus formula. Let's take our biggest IPs, let's take our biggest assets, and let's make a TV show out of them, And
I disagree with that kind of. If they reboot it, I don't think they're doing the Disney Plus method, because the Disney Plus method is to take your big IPs but do the stories that aren't your movies.
Yep,
they got the Mandalorian. They have, if you look at the Marvel side of it, WandaVision, what is it, Captain and Falcon or whatever.
Yeah,
What
Captain
If,
America and
Loki.
Winter Soldier,
You got all these shows that aren't just retelling the stories that have already been told. So I think if they want to compete at the same level, they need to do different stories and explore more of the universe that you can't necessarily just jump into in a movie and expect everybody to love,
Yeah. That's absolutely fair. So, I mean, basically, just really quickly to say, before anyone jumps down our throat, this is speculation at this stage, we must say. It's basically, they're in early talks. This has been broken by The Hollywood Reporter. There's quite a lot of other news sites picking up on it now as well. So, with these things, there's not usually smoke without fire, so there's probably something going on behind the scenes that mean that this will probably see the light of day. Before we cap off this video, just really, really quickly, would you... I mean, Gail, it's difficult for you because we can't, but would you subscribe to HBO Max for something like this? Gail, I'll start with you. If they brought the service over to the UK, is this the type of thing that would get you to subscribe, along with obviously the movies and stuff they're dropping? Would this add value to a subscription for you?
Personally, it depends. I think a lot of it will come down to like how the production has been going, and of course trailers and generating the hype, because at the end of the day, for me as a fan of the series, like everything what's happening in recent times with the author aside, a lot of it will come down to seeing how the cast is performing in the trailers. It doesn't give much of an indication, but it's still something, right? So it'll come down to what the cast is doing in the trailers, how the production's going, are the writers doing the right things with the books so far from what we can tell, and overall, is it a smooth sailing production, right? If that's the case, I don't mind. I think I can see it being adding value to it, especially after they have the DC universe already being part of the HBO Max setup.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm not a fan of Game of Thrones, but that's something else that's for other people to also consider. So you've got Game of Thrones, DC, and now Harry Potter as well. So for a lot of fans who love all three, this is massive value, arguably. So I can see, for me personally, it does add some value. But for the overall fan base, I think, who loves all three, this is huge. Absolutely.
No, that's good, Gail. I'll flame you at a later date for not liking Game of Thrones. We'll leave that topic just now. What about Clerk? What do you reckon, Clerk? Is this the type of thing that would get you to jump on HBO Max, or are you already subscribed? Because obviously Americans, you can get access to it now.
Yeah, I have it right now, but if I didn't, I think this is your big selling point. They've announced a different Game of Thrones show, but I think they the hype for Game of Thrones has definitely fallen off in the past year or so because of the last seasons. So a lot of people are still burnt from that.
Oh yeah. I like that pun there.
DC
That's a good pun, by the way, Clark. Burnt from the final season.
Thank you.
I
Thank
see
you.
where you
Thank
went
you.
there,
I'm too
mate.
tired to catch that. Oh my
Congratulations.
But like,
God.
I'm sure a lot of people are excited about the DC stuff too. But you know, it's hit or miss with that too. But I think Harry Potter is such a, I mean, it's one of the biggest franchises, right? This has to be a huge selling point for many people, and if they do it, release episodes weekly, you're gonna get subscriptions like that. So I think that's why they're pushing for Harry Potter now instead. Is that like, it's one of their last big horses in the race still that they can drop and, you know, get a huge amount of subscribers from. So I think this is a huge move for HBO Max.
Finally, to put a different spin on it, Waffles, do you think that in Japan this would help shift subscriptions? Because I think Harry Potter's popular in Japan. I could be wrong, but I think it's popular with merchandise and stuff like that. So could this help shift units over there?
Gosh, I think maybe, but probably nothing big. I think that this isn't going to be a game changer in Japan. I don't see this being okay, you're going to get a massive amount of people coming to it from here. I think it'll be something that maybe people will hear about, but I don't think it'll be like everyone will jump on it.
Yeah.
Well, I think also you have to remember Netflix has the advantage, if you're going to talk about Netflix versus HBO Max. Netflix does have the advantage in Japan because they have been starting to push a lot of anime onto their platform as well.
Yeah.
Even newer shows per season as well. So it's going to be
Yeah,
hard
they have it
for them
simulcast here.
Yeah, it's going to be hard for them to dethrone it without adding more value to HBO Max in terms of Japanese-based shows such as anime or anything else, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like dramas and things like that. Like those are going to be the things that sell more here, and I just think that that's not enough on its own.
Yep.
No, that's fine. So, guys, that's it. Breaking news. Like we say, Harry Potter potentially could be getting a TV show launching on HBO Max. In the future, you're going to see a lot more videos like this coming from 5ix9ine. We're going to be discussing a lot more topics you might not have expected, but expect more news on movies, TV shows, and stuff like that in the future. So, from myself, Hayes Inc., from Gail, Waffles, and Clerk, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next video, guys. See you later.